A snake was moving around inside the house. Only 3 people lived there. A man named Harry, his wife named Sheen, and Harry's daughter Julie. Sheen was Julie's biological mother, and Julie didn't like her at all. The whole family was having breakfast when the snake reached Sheen's waist. As soon as Sheen saw the snake, she screamed loudly. The snake was actually Julie's pet, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Julie had deliberately let the snake out because Sheen was afraid of snakes, and Julie wanted to trouble her. After Sheen repeatedly told her to, Julie picked up the snake. Sheen told her to go inside, and Julie obeyed. After Julie left, Sheen started talking to her husband. She said that Julie should be sent to a boarding school so that she could stay away from them and the house and learn how society works, which would make it easier to get her married. Harry understood what she was saying and reassured her that he would fix everything soon, and until then Sheen should stay quiet. Hearing this, Sheen started speaking even more negatively about Julie. Julie secretly overheard their conversation and then went to her room. Sheen and Harry's argument was still going on when the doorbell rang. Harry opened the door and saw Julie's friend standing there. She had come to meet Julie because they had a program at college that day, and she wanted to take Julie along with her. But Julie refused, saying she preferred going hunting with her dad rather than going to college. Her friend kept insisting, but Julie scared her away by showing her a mouse. After a while, Julie and Harry reached the forest. Julie was very fond of hunting. Harry had raised her like a boy, and he loved her deeply. Whenever they got the chance, the father and daughter would come to the nearby forest. While hunting, Julie asked her father, "Don't you like me? Is that why you want to send me to a boarding school?" Harry replied that they were thinking about it for her own good. But Julie told him that she didn't want to go anywhere and wanted to stay with him. On the other hand, Sheen was alone at home when she heard a sound at the door. As soon as she opened it, she saw a delivery man named Jimmy. It was his first time coming to Sheen's house. Seeing her beauty, he praised her a lot. After checking the items, Sheen asked Jimmy if he could do one thing for her. Jimmy thought Sheen was interested in him, so when she told him to come into the room, he followed her. But after entering the room, Sheen said, "This is my daughter's room. Can you release her snake in the forest?" Jimmy didn't say anything and silently picked up the snake and left. At night, Julie and Harry returned home as well. They had spent the whole day hunting, so as soon as they got home, Julie went to bed. In her room, Sheen was alone, waiting for Harry. When Harry went to put Julie to sleep, Julie said, "Dad, I won't go to boarding school. I'll stay with you." Harry promised her. Julie asked him to sleep next to her, but Harry went to his own room, where Sheen was lying on the bed. Harry soon fell asleep, and Sheen was left feeling sad. The next day, when Julie couldn't find her snake, she asked Sheen about it. Sheen told her the truth. Julie became extremely angry at Sheen. She knew that Sheen was jealous of her. Sheen tried to explain, but Julie didn't listen. She went into her room and locked it from the inside. When Sheen called out to her, Julie put on her headphones and started playing music. Meanwhile, Jimmy came to their house again. Once more, he had arrived to deliver supplies. When he realized that Sheen was alone at home, he tried to move closer and speak to her affectionately. However, Sheen was not in the mood and asked him to leave. Jimmy crossed a boundary. At the same time, Sheen began calling out to her daughter, but Julie had her headphones on and couldn't hear anything. To force Jimmy to leave, Sheen started arguing with him. The noise reached Julie's ears, and she came out of her room. Hearing Sheen's raised voice, Julie picked up a gun and stepped outside, aiming it at Jimmy. After a few moments, Jimmy came within her sight, but Julie hesitated and did not fire. In reality, Julie was extremely angry with her mother because she believed Sheen was trying to separate her from her father, while Sheen was still arguing with Jimmy, fatally injured during the struggle. Jimmy did not realize anyone else was in the house and ran away without seeing Julie. He fled to his room, packed his belongings, and left the city for another place. A few days later, Julie was at the police station. The police questioned her about the killer, since she had been the only other person in the house at the time. Julie told the police that she had been in her room and came out only after hearing Sheen scream, by which time the killer had already escaped. In truth, Julie had deliberately given a false statement. Shortly afterward, both father and daughter returned home. Julie now began taking great care of Harry. She prepared coffee, and Harry was pleased. That night, Julie couldn't sleep because she felt afraid. She went to Harry's room, where he was still awake, and lay down nearby to feel safe. The next day, Harry brought a new woman home. Her name was Roomie. Harry wanted to marry her, and Roomie, who was divorced, agreed. She was very impressed by Harry's large house. In fact, Harry and Roomie had been involved even before Sheen's death, and now they planned to live together. Harry told Roomie that they would send Julie to a boarding school, and then they could live freely. A few days later, Harry told Julie that he was going to get married again. Hearing this, Julie felt deeply hurt. Around the same time, Harry noticed a boat arriving and became very excited. Roomie had come there with her son. Harry hurried to welcome them. Julie watched them and felt jealous because after Sheen's death, she believed she would be the only one living with her father, but that hope was now gone. Harry brought his new wife home, where Roomie met Julie. However, Julie was unhappy and said nothing to her. She remained silent, lost in her thoughts about her father. A little while later, the entire family sat down for dinner. Roomie tried to start a conversation with Julie, but Julie didn't respond. Seeing Harry show affection toward Jack made Julie feel deeply unsettled. Roomie tried to explain things and comfort Julie, but Julie remained silent. Roomie said that she wanted to be Julie's friend and asked her to give her a chance, but Julie stood up and walked away. Julie went to her room, where she saw Harry putting Jack to bed. This made Julie feel sad. After some time, when Harry finished and started to leave the room, Julie hid. Once Harry was gone, Julie entered Jack's room. Many thoughts ran through her mind, but after a moment, she decided to leave and return to her own room. Julie still couldn't fall asleep because the voices of Harry and Roomie were keeping her awake. She felt emotionally confused and restless. She started walking toward Harry's room, but then stopped herself, turned back, and returned to her room in tears. The next morning, Julie began playing with Jack. Seeing this, both Roomie and Harry felt relieved and happy, thinking that Julie was finally bonding with Jack. However, no one knew what was truly going on inside Julie's mind. After a while, Roomie and Harry went out together. Taking advantage of the moment, Julie continued playing with Jack and noticed an old refrigerator outside. She suggested playing a game of hide and seek. Jack went inside the refrigerator to hide. Just then, Julie saw that Harry and Roomie were returning. She quickly moved away and pretended to be playing near a tree. Soon Harry and Roomie came over and asked about Jack. Julie told them they were playing hide and seek and that Jack must be hiding somewhere. Julie called out to Jack, but there was no response. Harry and Roomie also called for him, but no one answered. Then Roomie's eyes fell on the refrigerator. Both of them realized Jack might be inside. They rushed to open it and found Jack unconscious. Julie stood nearby, silently watching. Jack was rescued and later brought inside. Roomie asked her son if Julie had locked him inside the refrigerator. Jack said no, he hadn't clearly seen Julie. A short while later, Julie came into Jack's room, pretended to ask about his condition. Roomie had already realized that Julie didn't like them. After Julie left, Roomie went to Julie's room. There, Roomie gently tried to explain that children always remain children in their parents' eyes. She had understood that Julie's feelings toward her father were deeply complicated. Julie stayed quiet and then asked, "Are you happy with my dad?" Roomie replied yes and asked Julie not to misunderstand her father. She told Julie to give her some time and assured her that things would improve. Meanwhile, Jimmy, trying to escape from the police, reached a bar where he began drinking to relax. At the bar, a woman tried to get his attention and impress him. Jimmy did not want to get involved with her because he was a fugitive, but when the woman approached him, he had no choice but to talk. The woman asked him for money in exchange for spending the night together. Jimmy was thinking about it when he suddenly noticed police officers entering the bar, searching for him. Panicking, Jimmy immediately left the bar with the woman and went to a hotel room. There, they spent some time together. When the woman asked for her payment, Jimmy refused because he had no money. This made the woman angry, and an argument broke out. She started shouting loudly. The woman's friend and her boyfriend from the next room came into Jimmy's room. A fight quickly broke out, and the situation escalated. Soon after, the police arrived and arrested Jimmy. Around the same time, Harry received a phone call informing him that his wife's killer had been caught. Harry took Julie with him to the police station for identification. Julie was asked to identify the suspects one by one. When her eyes fell on Jimmy, she recognized him immediately. However, she told the officers that none of them were her mother's killer. In truth, Julie deliberately lied. After leaving the police station, Julie secretly stayed behind and waited for Jimmy. After some time, Jimmy came out and Julie began following him. Jimmy walked ahead while Julie followed from a distance. Jimmy eventually returned to the hotel where he was staying in a rented room. Julie reached there shortly afterward. They both entered the elevator, but neither of them spoke. Jimmy went to his room, and a little later, Julie returned home. Soon after, she called Jimmy and said, "I'm Sheen's daughter. When Sheen died, I was inside the house. I could have told the police what you looked like, but I didn't say anything." Jimmy asked her what she wanted from him. Julie replied that she would tell him in person. A short while later, Jimmy reached a shopping mall where Julie had asked him to come. Julie arrived soon after and told him that her father had remarried and that she wanted him to get rid of her new stepmother. Hearing this, Jimmy tried to explain that Sheen's had been an accident. Julie clearly warned him that if he didn't do what she said, she would go to the police and tell them everything. She also tempted him with a promise of money. Greed clouded Jimmy's judgment, and he agreed to her plan. That night, Harry and Roomie were preparing to go out. Julie called Jimmy and told him that her parents were going out, but that her stepmother would return home earlier. After hearing this, Jimmy got ready, believing he could carry out the plan and also steal money from the house. A little later, Julie turned off the lights in the house so that everything would remain dark. She then took her gun and hid inside a wardrobe. On the other hand, Roomie was on her way home alone after attending a party. Harry had gone elsewhere, so she was returning by herself. By then, Jimmy had already entered the house. Knowing that Roomie would return soon, he started searching for a locker. Despite trying for a long time, he couldn't find it. In reality, Julie had tricked him. She had given him false promises to make him agree to her plan. Her intention was that Jimmy would attack Roomie, and then she would eliminate Jimmy herself. That was why she was hiding inside the wardrobe. Soon, Roomie arrived home. Seeing the house dark, she called out to Julie, but Julie remained completely silent. Roomie quickly tried to fix the lights and started moving toward Julie's room. At that moment, Jimmy suddenly appeared in front of her and tried to grab her. Roomie ran, but Jimmy blocked her path and said that her daughter wanted to see her. Before he could finish speaking, Roomie threw a chair at him, causing Jimmy to fall to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, Roomie picked up his knife. She was ready to defend herself. However, Jimmy managed to grab her and pushed her forcefully. Roomie fell out of the window. Jimmy assumed that Roomie was... He sat down on a chair and began drinking calmly. Julie also believed that Jimmy had completed the task. She came out and confronted him, saying that he was going to die as well. Hearing this, Jimmy threw a bottle at Julie and grabbed her. A struggle followed. During the fight, Julie managed Jimmy using a bottle. Jimmy screamed loudly. Julie quickly picked up her gun. At that point, Julie believed she was the only one left alive in the house. Suddenly, she heard a noise at the door and assumed that her father had returned home. As soon as Julie opened the door, she was forcefully. It was carried out by Roomie, who was still alive. At the end of the story, when Harry returned home, he saw Julie's. Roomie told Harry that an intruder had broken into the house and that Julie was trying to protect her. With this, the story comes to an end.